So it's hard to believe that it's been over a year since I finished at South College. A year ago, around this time in January, I decided to withdraw from the Doctor of Education. However, I ended up receiving a education specialist degree for completing 8 of the 10 courses within the doctorate program, and that was a surprise to me because I wasn't necessarily planning to end with a credential unless I went back and finished. So even though I didn't get the full doctorate, I did put a lot of effort in. And if you've watched this channel, you've probably seen the ups and downs of my journey, which, is maybe less relevant now compared to other people who have been in the program more recently. But what I'm creating this video for is just to share my reflection on what I think of South College now, a year later, as well as do I regret doing the program / am I grateful that I did the program and thankful that I went through all that hard work. So when you do a bunch of coursework and they're at a high level in that there are graduate studies, in this case doctoral level coursework, that were self-paced. So part of the challenge was not just getting through the difficult course material, it was also just managing my time, similar to others who are at South College, who are working professionals, trying to balance work, life, extracurriculars, home life, all of that. And taking the time to reflect has been very revealing in that the learning itself was one huge outcome that I feel grateful for, in that I do sense a whole different way of thinking about my career in education because I did the education route. Some of you are in Doctor of Business Administration, so you're more interested in the business side. But in education, so much of the coursework that I did really revolved around universal design for learning, and my whole university is basically creating new mandates around this. So I feel like I kind of got my head around some of the contemporary theories in the field of education and wrote about it, not just a perspective from my point of view, but also looking at the research literature that was talking all about universal design for learning. And I was grateful that I was kind of forced or encouraged to find sources that were within the last 5 years in all my papers. I believe would still be a requirement for a lot of the later courses, so maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and definitely 9th and 10th. So when you're looking at recent research literature, you're getting not just information that is interesting and useful, but you're getting information that has validity a lot of the time, but you're also able to assess the validity or the reliability of some of the studies that we were reading. So I thought having that knowledge has been amazing in my personal practice as a educator and educational designer in a way as well, because I create learning experiences, not just deliver them. I did share in one of my last videos about the challenge sometimes about having too much knowledge to share or too much knowledge to tap into because you feel like you have more information to think about when doing your job. I pretty much use most of my knowledge gained through South College as opposed to some of the education degrees that I did at WGU, where I did 2 education degrees, one in curriculum and instruction and one in learning and technology. I don't really tap into some of those theories as much as I do what I learned at South College. I don't know if it's just because it resonates more or if I just feel like it was more recent. But I do probably think a strong sense was that I just dug deeper by writing more about the work in the papers. And some people don't like that experience going through all of that paper writing, but for me, I was just grateful for it. And there have been times where I've actually looked back at my papers just to kind of get insight on some topics that I was reflecting on and writing about as it relates to research. And I just was also impressed by kind of the amount of writing skills that were developed over the course of the time at South College. And then now I think I can look more critically at writing. Obviously, like you learn a lot about citation and how to make a reference list and whatnot. And maybe that's less relevant for people who aren't in academia. However, I do think it is useful to know how to source other people's work, even in the professional world. I mean, we can't just take work and claim it as our own. So from the learning side, I feel like I definitely leveled up there. But I think the big takeaway from this whole experience from WGU, Masters 1, Masters 2, and then South College was the whole self-paced notion of learning and how that's impacted my life. I don't think it's usual to do graduate level degrees self-paced and do it well off the get-go. And I remember feeling a little bit lost, like a leaf in the wind when I first started at WGU, not really sure what I was doing exactly. But once you get good at that skill, at setting timelines, motivating yourself to stay on topic, having those designated times during the week where you're going to do the work, even if it's not comfortable, sometimes you're distracted, other times you're just not in the mood, but trying to stick to a routine, getting really immersed into the work so it's not just like hating it and trying to grind it out, but also getting into the flow and enjoying the process of engaging with learning material. That helped my work because there are many times in my job where, I may be not as interested in what I'm doing. However, I kind of remember back to those times at South College where I just kind of kept focused enough to the point where eventually you kind of get over the hurdle of starting work and you just get into the flow. And I think I trained myself to be a very disciplined person, even though I think I probably have a proclivity towards being disciplined, but this just made it so much more natural for me to be disciplined on a day-to-day basis. And I just constantly think about this boot camp that I did at South College for being motivated, disciplined, and focused, that maybe others don't get this rigorous experience in their life in a formal education way. So, do I regret going to South College? I would say absolutely not. Obviously, it helps getting a credential of sorts. After I withdrew and got the credential months later, that was, an accomplishment. It makes you feel like the hard work paid off. However, let's say the credential was taken away, or let's say the credential didn't exist. I think I would still be satisfied knowing that I kind of got this whole bank of new thinking around my discipline at a doctoral level, as well as just learning how to learn and learning how to work really effectively. I think the nice thing about South College is that, I've mentioned this before, but if I decide to go back and finish the doctorate, that I've already paved the way. I just have to finish the 9th course and 10th. It's just not top of mind right now. So do I recommend South College to other people? And I would say, based on my experience, yes. I know people have had ups and downs, and then with competence-based education, whether it's not getting their assignments graded as fast as they would like, or being slowed down at the dissertation phase. I didn't necessarily get into the dissertation, but I started to approach it and I started to see how the process is a little bit more time-consuming. And I do think that that actually has merit, to slow down a dissertation, to really take the time to do it meticulously. However, I think there were some challenges of waiting for feedback and whatnot, but obviously I didn't have that experience. So when it came to the coursework, I was pretty satisfied with my overall learning experience. If I was to change anything about the doctorate, if I was part of the design committee of how this coursework is put together, I would like sometimes more involved feedback in certain assignments, because I found that I was getting a lot of applause on the work, but maybe less meaningful feedback. And to me, meaningful feedback is feedback that I can take in action. And so I would have liked a little bit more of that at times, because, you're getting feedback on every assignment, and an instructor can't give you meaningful feedback for everything if they are grading hundreds of papers a week or whatever. But maybe the student could opt in for certain feedback, whether they select something that says, hey, I'd like feedback or meaningful feedback in this way. It kind of puts the learner in more of an active seat of when they want feedback and how they want feedback. But other than that, I think that the learning experience was really valuable. I do recommend it for people who can hit the ground running as well, if they know how to do self-paced learning. But I will say that not everyone is well suited to that, and it may be actually a barrier to the learning if you don't like to organize your learning and motivate yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you can't get through the work because you can't get motivated, it doesn't matter how inexpensive the degree seems on paper, or how many people have got through the program in X amount of time and you want to be like that. You just have to know yourself enough. Can you motivate yourself? Can you do the work? Can you push yourself when times are tough? Can you take breaks when needed, but then get back onto the bandwagon? In that case, it's definitely recommendable, and I learned more than I even hoped for, especially thinking back the whole year of applying some of this knowledge. So anyways, I thought I would share that video just because it's been a while, and I also think that there's value in seeing the progression of somebody's reflection on a learning experience. So here it is for you to hear. Otherwise, I will see you in another video.